Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Deluxe class Autobot tracks from Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Trilogy. I picked this up over at BestBuy.com, surprisingly. You know, Best Buy, where you think to go for all your toy needs. But they actually had a decent amount of Wave 3 up. They did not have Galvatron or Rodimus Prime, assuming those are probably the most anticipated, sought-after, popular figures for Wave 3. But very excited to pick up tracks. I think the artwork on the front of the box looks great. Really happy with this. Very cool. You can see the smaller window here with the figure just kind of mounted to the cardboard insert. Not too much going on the top or bottom. Over here you have that kind of standard Kingdom group shot or mural, whatever you want to call it. And then over here on the back you can see the robot mode, the vehicle mode, and he does have the kind of like hybrid jet mode there for the car. So pretty cool. Very excited for this one. Let's go ahead, let's get him out of the box and we'll take a closer look. So here is Trax out of the packaging, and for the most part, I think he looks pretty good. He's got quite a decent sized backpack here. And it's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like all of this is light, clear plastic with blue paint over it. So I don't know how that's going to hold up, but I think this back section here is actually blue plastic. But then all of this here is the light translucent blue plastic with blue paint over it. It looks okay. You can certainly tell, and you'll see a little bit later on when we get into vehicle mode, it doesn't match the blue plastic perfectly, but it's not bad. But here is the giant backpack here. Head sculpt I think looks pretty good. I think they did a nice job with that. The eyes are a nice color blue. The face is a nice red. Head is white. And that is on a ball joint, so you have side to side. You have a little bit of up and down, not a ton, but a decent amount there. Arms look pretty good. You have swivel. You have a little bit of back, almost like a butterfly joint, but that's really just for the transformation, but you can use it if you want to. You have a swivel there. You have a hinge here in the shoulder. Bicep swivel. I would say, well, yeah, I guess just 90 degrees in the elbow there. Nothing in the wrist. They go into the forearm. I feel like they could have still put a swivel in there, but they did not. You have a waist swivel here. This little piece can kind of go up, so if you want to kick all the way forward, kick to the back, hinge out to the side. Thighs swivel 90 degrees. This piece moves around. We'll get to that in a minute. And then you have ankle tilt down here. So you do have some forward, when this is not moving, you have some front to back, and of course tilt side to side. So all in all, I think the robot mode looks good for the most part, but the legs down here are kind of a mess, unfortunately. In my opinion, his hips and thighs look a little too thin, and from the knee down looks fine. I mean, you have this giant gap here where the foot's just connected to this piece, so that looks a little weird. And also, these are supposed to tab. You can see the very tiny, shallow tab right there, and there is a tab spot here on the side, but it's just not, it just kind of catches it. And, it, you know, anytime you move it around, it's going to flop. It doesn't really peg in. I wish this tab was just a little bit bigger, so this would actually peg in and keep it. It just doesn't. So it's not a deal breaker by any means. I mean, you can get it to kind of catch and, you know, he'll stand, but they really should have made that peg a little bit longer so that would catch there. But don't worry, these are a problem in vehicle mode as well, so why shouldn't they be a problem in robot mode? But you have some nice paint applications. Like I said, the face and the whole head really, I think, looks good. The Autobot symbol here on the chest looks good. This paint here on the forearms, I think, is really sharp. So they did do a really nice job with that. He does come with two accessories. He's got this kind of double-barreled gun, which, of course, if you want, you can have him hold in his hand. But it's meant to go right on top of here. Now, this is a kind of pin spot, and it doesn't peg in all that great. But if you push it a little bit, there you go. You can get that to peg in on top, so it looks more like the original toy and what he looked like on the show. You also have this kind of basic black blaster that he can hold in his hand. And that looks pretty cool. So honestly, he doesn't look bad. I really don't even mind the backpack because it's very reminiscent of the original toy for him to have that kind of hood behind his head. Even his animation model had that hood behind his head. So I don't mind that at all. The only part of the robot mode that I'm not a huge fan of is I feel like the hips and thighs are a little too thin, And I really wish this just would catch a little better. I just wish this was a kind of a full-on peg so that this would actually just peg into place and actually stay there. I mean, it catches, but any kind of pressure applied will just knock it off right away. And I really don't love this empty space between the foot and the leg. Just not a huge fan of that either. I don't know how they would have fixed it, but I'm just not a huge fan of it. Again, not a deal breaker, but just not a huge fan of it. You can move the wings a little bit, so if you kind of like more of a straight up look, or if you wanted to have kind of a more horizontal look, you do have some options there. I like the 45-degree angle for the wings, but you can move those around. And this is white paint here on the crotch plate as well, which looks really sharp. So there are lots of good things about Trax. He's not perfect in robot mode, but I would say he's like 80 to 85% perfect. So, you know, he's not bad, but he's not perfect. He has a few flaws, but I don't think it's anything that's a huge deal breaker. But let's go ahead, let's get into his transformation. Alright, so I've gone ahead and removed all the accessories. We'll do the kind of jet mode for the car along the way, because it just kind of naturally happens, and you'll see what I mean. We'll start by flipping the hands into the forearms like so. We're going to come down here to the feet, and the feet are kind of a weird mess. Actually, no, before that, we're going to unpeg this and lift it up. You can see that there's a large peg, and that just pegs in there. This is going to kind of come all the way up, and then you're going to de-accordion. Again, I don't think that's really a word, but pop that section out. You'll hear it click into place, and then you just have kind of the whole back and roof and even part of the hood of the car just hanging out there on the back. So that's just going to hang out there for the moment. You're going to, let's see, how do I want to start this? I think we flip these open. These shin panels open up like so. And the way these legs work, you have to flip this up. You can see how there's one, like both of these pieces are on a hinge, or I guess a pole, a post, whatever you want to call it, that goes through there. So you have to rotate this part up, then rotate this part in. And I forgot, we have to actually, I forgot a step to do. This actually, the chest piece pops out, and you can see how there's kind of an accordioned piece in here. This is going to pop out so you can straighten this out and have some room to do all this stuff. So now we rotate this 180 degrees. Now, once you bring in this bottom piece, this will have enough clearance to pop over the hips like so. And then once you have this all lined up, this should close over this, and then you're going to kind of bring the foot up like that. So let's do this again. We're going to move this up and rotate this up, then rotate the bottom part up. That way this can clear the hips, and then this will close. And then you snap these together to make the hood of the car. These are again supposed to pop here. Now how this is supposed to work, there's a tiny little nub. It's not even a full pin or anything. And then there's a tiny little spot for it right there. And that's just to kind of supposed to hold that in place. It doesn't really. They kind of naturally just pop open. It gets a little bit better as you do the rest of this, but you'll see what I mean. So we need to, actually before we do this, we need to push the chest plate all the way in as far as it'll go. And you'll see the pin right here. When you pull that out, you can see the pin goes in. So when you push this in, you want to make sure the pin's all the way down. Then you're going to make sure these are over this like that. So this is the whole front of the car. You're going to spin this section around 180 degrees up here. And you can see how that's going to cover the face. And then this whole section is going to flip around and pop onto here. And this is a little bit easier said than done. Because what needs to happen, there is some pegs right here, kind of two pieces that go together, and that's going to peg in underneath here, as well as kind of lining up everything else kind of in this area. So you also have these two little tabs that have to go under the hood of the car. So It's a lot to get to line up. Once you do, it's going to be pretty good. Oh, the other thing is the feet have to kind of angle up and fit where the windshield would go. So it's just a lot of moving pieces. But I promise it is doable. Oh, there we go. That was actually a lot easier. I feel like each time I do it, it gets a little bit easier just because you kind of know what to do and you know what you're looking for. Now you can see here, these pieces are supposed to kind of, again, stay close to the body. They don't. It's not a deal breaker as far as the car is concerned. It still, you know, stays together fairly well, but it does have those spaces, which is a bummer. Now, like I said, we pretty much just get to the flying car mode organically, and here it pretty much is. So you just pull this to the side, straighten this out, do what you like with the wings, and then if you come underneath here, there's these little white fins that you pop out, and they just rotate around, and there you go. There is the flying car mode. I kind of wish this connected a little bit closer to the body, but it's okay. It gets the job done. I mean, there's the flying car mode. That's pretty much what it looked like in the show. So put these back down like so. Flip this back around. And then we're going to spin this around 180 degrees at the bicep. Extend that around and straighten it out with the wing. Then this is just going to drop straight down. And then it's just going to flip up and fill that empty space. And it clips in pretty tight. There's actually, and this is really strange, but there's just the tiniest little nubbin right there. You can kind of see it. And that really holds the arms in place, like to the point that it's very hard to get them out of there when going back to robot mode. But that really holds the car together. Now, like I said, these are sticking out, and that's a bummer. And you can kind of squish it together, and it might stay a little bit, but they really do pop out. So basically just everything having to do with these panels, robot mode and vehicle mode, just not the best. But I will say the vehicle mode looks really good. Like when I think back to the Thrilling 31, it was a lot flatter and wider. And I just feel like this looks more like a Corvette. Like they did a really nice job with this. Again, I wish this had the more like yellow and red flame of the original toy, but I'm told this is what it looked like on the cartoon. So if they're going for a more cartoon accurate color scheme, I get it. I've seen pictures of Road Rage, which is the red repaint they do of this guy, and he's got the yellow and red flame, and I just think it looks so much better. I wish he had it too, but it's okay. I mean, if that I double checked, and this really is what it looks like on the cartoon, so I get it. But for my own personal preference, I wish it was the other way. But I think it's a really good vehicle mode. I think, especially from the side, it looks very much like a Corvette. It looks great. It rolls well. Even with those panels kind of, you know, popping out to the side a little bit, it still rolls well. And it doesn't look terrible. It just kind of, you can see the space there. And they really should stay together. And again, I just feel like it just needs more secure pegs. Maybe they had more secure pegs and they would break because it would get too tightly pegged in there. I don't know. But from the side, I think it really looks sharp. And I definitely think it's an improvement over the Thrilling 31 because that was so much wider and flatter because they tried to use it for both tracks and wheeljack. And so it kind of wasn't really either. But I think this is pretty sharp. I really do. I like this vehicle mode a lot. Now, again, these accessories, you can peg this in. You can put that there. You can peg this one on top if you want. Or you can peg it in on the sides here. You know, you can do whatever you want. There are these two peg holes on the side. So if you want to put weapons all around, you certainly can. But yeah, I think it's a pretty sleek vehicle mode. I just wish the front held together a little bit better. Otherwise, I'm actually quite happy with it. So Drex is pretty good. He's not perfect, but he's pretty good. What do I like about it? There's a lot that I do like about it. Paint applications I think look great. The paint on the arms, in the waist, the Autobot symbol, the head sculpt's great. Articulation's pretty good for the most part. Accessories are good. I like how they gave him kind of a fake superficial roof of the car for his chest plate because trying to make the actual roof of the car fit in this area just wasn't going to work. I like the wings. I think they're good. You know, you can move them around. You have some posability there. The backpack's not great, but again, it's not terrible because he does kind of have that hood behind his head in both the animation model and the original toy, so it makes total sense. I don't know how much I love the fact that they used pretty much all translucent plastic and then painted it blue. It doesn't quite match the rest of the actual blue plastic, but so far so good. We'll see how it holds up over time. I'm not sure about that. I still think that the hips and the thighs up here are a little thin. I think that, you know, kind of just takes away from the rest of his body being kind of a normal thickness, if that makes sense. But then obviously my biggest problem is these panels here on the side of the leg. They just don't really peg in as well as I wish they did to the side of the leg. They don't really hold together that well in vehicle mode either. But luckily it doesn't really hinder the rolling or movement of the vehicle mode. But when you have the foot just kind of floating there away from the rest of the leg, I don't love that look. It's not a deal breaker. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I mean, luckily if you're just posing them like this, you don't notice it as much, but it's still a little bit of a weird look. But I mean, if you just kind of put him on a shelf and look at him from far away, superficially, he looks great. And I mean, hey, doesn't that make sense for the character of Trax? He was always very into his looks. But like I said, he's just not perfect, but he's pretty close. I honestly like him a lot. I think it's definitely an improvement over the Thrilling 31 because that was kind of a flatter, wider vehicle mode. And I just think this works a lot better. It looks like the Corvette. It's a pretty significantly like compact and tight vehicle mode with the exception of those panels in the front. I don't love the flame. I wish they had gone with the more toy accurate sticker where it was kind of the yellow and the red, but this is what the cartoon looks like, so if that's what they're going for, then okay, they nailed it. But yeah, overall, I definitely think he's worth picking up. They are going to redo him in red as Road Rage for a Target exclusive. I think it's a Target Red Card exclusive, if I'm not mistaken, but then it'll eventually open up to the general populace, so I think he's cool, just not perfect. He falls a little bit short of my expectations. I was really excited when I first saw pictures, but I mean, I'm not terribly disappointed. You just kind of have to navigate the few things that are, you know, those legs. It's really just the legs. As long as you can get him in a pose that works and the legs hold together, because he'll still pose. The fact that those panels don't really peg in, luckily, doesn't make him a floppy mess, which is one saving grace. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm just kind of saying the same thing over and over again. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.